Hey South Hills, as a church, we have 8 values that define who we desire to be as a collective church and as individual followers of Christ. I think it's important to share these values and what they really mean with all of you. The value I want to unpack today is this: we won't wait for someone else to reach our neighbors. We are not the kind of community that waits around hoping someone else will do it. We believe in taking action because we know that God has placed us right where we are among our neighbors and friends for a reason. It's not just about showing others the love of God. It's about inviting them into their very own relationship with Him. One way we start the process is by investing in the people around us. That's why we are passionate about teaching on the topics that we know unchurched people around us are interested in. We want to speak to the questions and concerns they have in their everyday lives. And we want to make it easy for you to invite them to join you right here on Sundays. We believe that the love and hope we've found should overflow into the lives of those around us. So let's roll up our sleeves, invest into our neighbors, and invite them to experience all that Jesus has to offer. Let's be the catalyst for the positive change in our neighborhoods and beyond.
I've been doing the Bible study. I've joined the group for the past, I think, 16 years. It's been multiple studies. At one point, the group was so big, it was like 30 people. It was like a mini church. And then it just started dwindling and the crowd started getting smaller. People were moving away and it ended up being just the 2 of us. It was tiny. And Christy was like, "No, this cannot happen, Tessie, don't. Let's not stop this." She was like, "No, let's not stop this. I need this."
I said, "Tessie, no matter what, even if it's just you and I, we have to keep this group going. I need it. I need it from my soul. I love you. And we have to keep it going." And so we did. And then Heidi came back and then the group started growing again.
Once I came back, I felt encouraged and supportive, and I did feel like normally it's usually hard for me to share, but when I was in this group, I was able to really share the realness of what was going on, and it was scary initially, but they were great and supportive and encouraging, and it was nice to just kind of be real and not have to overthink.
So I joined the group about a year ago, I think it was, and if I'm being honest, I joined the group because I felt bad that I was always telling other people to get in groups, and I was like, I can't tell other people to get in groups if I'm not even in one.
I joined the group 8 months ago. I got out of a crazy life situation, and the day that I showed up to the group, I was late and I was in 2-day-old clothes and just, going through it. And yeah, I walked in with a notebook and just was super open with everyone, and I felt really comfortable. I knew I needed community, so that's ultimately why I found myself just like on the Church Center app, like looking for any group, to join, and the way it lined up was just perfect.
Now, since we've started, it's been growing and it's amazing. I found that, small groups is where you can meet your people.
We all need relationships where we can both pour into someone else and get poured into ourselves. We need people that we can learn and grow with, and that's what this group is for me. It's women that I can read the Bible with, that I can pray with, that I can count on. I remember times when they've been like, "Hey, you know what? I know you're going through a lot. Let me come over and watch your kid for a few hours or take him to the park." And it's the little things as well as the big things that make all the difference. I've created lifelong friends that I can text and say, "Hey, I'm struggling with this," or "Hey, I need prayer for this." They're like a family to me.
The group was just such a monumental thing in my life because outside of being in the group, I felt like I could lean on everybody that was a part of that environment, and I felt like I could reach out for prayer and reach out just in vulnerability, and there was so much power in that. And then just feeling like I could trust a group of women was life-changing for me.
It takes a long time to trust somebody and be vulnerable and all of that. So that's what I was saying. It's, this doesn't happen overnight, because all of us, we might think that we don't need a group and we don't need anybody right now, but one day we are all going to need help. This has helped me so much to get to the basics, to pray, to have no problem, even if I'm stumbling, just like how I am right now, right now, that I can actually just talk. All I have to do is be intentional that I'm praying for you for this specific reason, and I have the faith that it's going to change, and I've seen it. I have seen it over the years, how prayer has changed, how it's affected every single person, whether they know it or whether even they asked for it. And it's amazing, because supernatural is what you get to see. Yeah.
Awesome. If you are visiting for the first time, my name is Efrain Peña. I am the campus pastor here at South Hills, Santa Clarita, and it is truly an honor to have you with us this morning as we wrap up our Family Month series, 5 Lies That Ruin Relationships. And I just want to give you a disclaimer, not really a disclaimer, just kind of an encouragement to lean in this morning, Today's conversations will press some buttons. Today's conversation or teaching will kind of probably make you feel a little uncomfortable. You're probably going to feel like, man, he's talking to me directly. And I want to encourage you to not ignore that. I probably am talking to everybody in the room. Let the Holy Spirit do what it wants to do. And this in no way is any kind of way of shaming anyone. This is just the reality of relationships, right? The real issues that happen in our relationships. And so this last lie that we want to bring up is there are certain rifts you just cannot repair. In other words, there are certain problems, certain issues that are you cannot fix, right? And that's the lie that we've been fed for years and years and years, and we're gonna jump right into it. But let me ask you this: you ever walked up on two people fighting about something absolutely stupid? Right? They were just back and forth, back and forth. Maybe it's from family members. Maybe it was some co-workers, some neighbors, just arguing stupidly about a little issue, right? And you just felt like slapping them both. Like, come on, man. Like, really? Is that what we're really arguing about? Is that what has us all wound up? Maybe they were arguing about which NFL team is the best. Some of you do. I know you. Or if pineapple actually belongs on pizza. See? Here, who wants to get slapped? Come on, right? Or maybe who the better rapper was, Tupac or Biggie? I don't know, right? These are the things that people argue about, right? There's a saying about how some people can make mountains out of what? Molehills. And there are definitely people who do just that, right? But what do you do? What do you do if it really is something that's a mountain? That's a big issue. Where the thing that happened between you and them isn't little, it's actually quite big. It's unavoidable and undeniable. There's no pretending that it didn't happen, that it isn't a problem, that it didn't hurt you both and change the relationship. It's not something that you could just step over and walk around it. In fact, it's actually significant and it's quite painful. Maybe it was that your mom told you not to marry your current spouse. Maybe it was someone didn't show up for you when you really needed help. Or maybe you found out someone was supporting you to your face but talking trash about you behind your back. You see, part of what makes these moments so crushing is that you didn't see it coming. You were blindsided. They catch you off guard. Someone you expected to be for you took action against you. That has left you devastated. Someone that you cared about, someone that you loved. Or maybe it just seemed that way. Maybe you didn't totally understand what was going on. Maybe it was less of a deal than you thought or made it out to be. And whether your expectation was realistic is another story, but the bottom line is that messed you up. I left you spinning. Often these moments mark the end of a relationship, right? Maybe it still exists, but not in the same way. And if at all, it's really only at a distance. This happens more than people would care to admit, church. And usually they don't want to talk about why it went down that way, or what happened. Is that the way it is? Is that the way it should always be? Are certain rifts just beyond repair? Sometimes we're not sure if we even want to repair it, right? There are times when we're like, man, I am so glad that they're out of my life and that is done and over with. Good riddance. Hit the road, Jack, and don't you come back no more, right? But then there are other times where we are like, man, I hate that it has to be this way. I hate that this happened. I really wanted something more, something better for the both of us. Friends, this is a hard question to navigate, because with some people, it is healthier for you to love them at a distance. But there are other relationships where you wonder if it could be different, if it should be different. If now that some time has passed and you've both grown, is it possible to kind of patch things up and make amends? There's a story in the Bible that we're going to be talking about today where of a guy who is in this same kind of exact moment. He's on the verge of kind of recontacting people in his family that he's been sort of kind of estranged from for years, but for good reason. And he's starting to wonder if it's a bad idea to reconnect. Genesis 32 tells us the story of Jacob and Esau. They were brothers. In verses 3-5, Jacob decides to go and reconnect with his brother Esau. And he sends messengers to Esau saying that he's coming, right? That he's coming to see him and things are good on his side, and that he hopes that he is welcomed, right? Now, if you don't know the story of Jacob and Esau, and you just happen to be here for the first time and hearing the story, you're like, and this is what you hear. And you're probably thinking, man, that's cool. What's wrong with that? Right? It seems like one brother is letting the other brother know he's coming to town. I'm coming to stop by. I'm dropping in for a visit. Make sure you got the rice and beans and the steak going, the barbecue going, right? I'm doing great. I hope you're doing great. Can't wait to see you. Ain't nothing wrong with that. Let's keep reading. Genesis 32, 6-7 says, after delivering the message, the messengers returned back to Jacob and reported, we met your brother Esau, and he is already on his way to meet you. So we've met him, and he's already on his way to meet you with an army of 400 men. Jacob was terrified at the news. He divided his household along with the flocks and the herds and the camels and into two groups. It's a little bit odd. Gonna go see your brother. Why he pulling up with the army? And why is Jacob dividing things up? Maybe you're thinking, why do the messengers, when they see the caravan coming towards them, assume that it's an army? Why can't it be his boys? Why can't it be his friends? Right? Why does Jacob take that seriously and assume that his brother is going to kill him? Why? Because the story doesn't start in this part. You see, anytime a conversation escalates into a full-blown conflict, it's always about something more than that particular exchange. Ever been there before? Started talking and all of a sudden be like, whoa, 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 what happened here? Right? Chances are, it didn't start right then and there. Something else had to happen. You see, these brothers have a history. Something happened between them a long, long time ago that they haven't talked about since. And it wasn't a little thing. It was a big thing, a relationship ending sort of thing. And if I ever see you again, I will kill you, with an army of 400 sort of thing happened. So what was it? What went down between Jacob and his brother? Genesis 27:31-35 tells us that how Esau discovered that Jacob tricked their dad Isaac and stole his birthright blessing. So Jacob tricked their dad Isaac and stole what was to belong to Esau. So what's the big deal about the birthright? Well, the birthright was the right of the firstborn son. And in this story, it was Esau. Esau was the firstborn, right? And his blessing, right, his birthright was to inherit the majority of his father's possessions and authority, replacing the father as the head of the family. It'd be like if your dad built a mega $1 million successful business, right? And you were destined to inherit the business and all of the incredible blessings that came along with it, right? And along comes your cousin, Cray, right? And kind of swoops in, lies, and takes everything that belongs to you. How would you feel? Find me Cray because I'm about to whoop him, right? And that's how Esau is feeling. He is mad. Like, this is what Jacob did. This is he did Esau wrong, right? In Genesis 27:41, Esau tells us that Esau hates Jacob so much that he vows to kill him. He vows to kill him. So when Jacob's servants see the caravan coming towards them, in their eyes, it has to be an army. Because they already know what Jacob did. So in the distance, they see all these people come. Oh, we dead. They're coming for us, right? Because that's what happens, church. Past trauma from a person, past trauma with a person makes even neutral interactions with them appear threatening. Ever been there before? Past trauma with somebody else, that when you connect with them, you feel like, oh my God, you got PTSD. Something's gonna go down. This moment severed their relationship, and he's been carrying that. Jacob has been carrying that around with him. And everywhere he goes, there's this weight of guilt and hurt and regret just sitting in the pit of his stomach. But when you push relational rifts down, you suppress it and don't deal with them, church, they end up resurfacing at a later time, at an inconvenient time, and it's explosive and often destructive because we did not deal with it at that moment. I would imagine that this was how Jacob was living his life for the last 20 years. But here's the thing, it's not just exclusive to this story and to Jacob and Esau. This sort of thing happens to all of us. Right? Someone says or does something that flashes you back to a hurtful moment, and you experience this sudden rush of pain and fear and adrenaline. And it's almost like you're involuntarily reliving it all over again. And the part of you that's designed to automatically protect you, just reacts. It just reacts. Some of us have had this experience but can't intellectually connect the dots to its source. And to the outside observer, people that you live or work with that don't know the details of this part of your story, they wonder, what is going on with them? Like, why are they acting like this? Like, really? Like, is that the way you're going to react? That's like, what gives? And sometimes, truth of the matter is, you don't know. And sometimes you do, but you don't want to go into it. You don't want to share the details. And sometimes it's just that you don't know how to explain it. You don't know how to tell what's going on with you. And then it becomes reactionary. Everybody's wondering why you came out your face. Why did you blow up? Why did you argue, scream, shout, stomp your feet, slam the door, give the stink eye? Right? And people in your life have these sort of off-limit subjects as well. So imagine you have an issue, that person has an issue. I call these buttons. We all have buttons. And not the buttons to your outfits or wardrobe, but there are buttons that people push, that trigger you, right? Buttons are a surface level sensitivity to certain words or actions or environments that triggers an instantaneous defensive reaction connected to past trauma, not the current situation. So when someone does something and you blow a gasket, chances are you are currently reacting to something that triggered you, the trauma from your past. Here's the thing, and while you're thinking about who this applies to, because it can't be you, I want you to know this. Psychiatrists say that everyone has a button. Everyone has a button. There is no way to avoid having buttons. No matter how wonderful your family was and is, or your childhood was, right? Pain, fear, and sadness touch us all, because the things that wound us worse aren't necessarily the worst things that happen to us, or the things that people intentionally did to hurt us. A button is the result of someone you expected to be for you taking action against you in a way that devastates you. How many of us have been in that position before? Someone we thought was in our corner, supposed to love us, supposed to encourage us, supposed to be for us, actually did something that contradicted that love and that care and devastated us. Some of us have more buttons than others, but we've all got them. And when someone trips one of your buttons, you may not be able to pinpoint what button got pushed, but you can tell that one did. You suddenly feel unloved. You feel disrespected. You feel rejected, controlled, abandoned, or like a failure. You feel inadequate, worthless, unimportant, and probably misunderstood, and just plain, not good enough. And you impulsively act in response to those feelings, not to what actually is happening. Maybe your spouse said something that you didn't like. It triggered a button and you responded back. You responded with words that were not affirming whatsoever. You most likely won't consciously think you most likely won't consciously think any of those words, but you feel an overwhelming emotional charge. Old memories emerge, complex feelings flood in. You momentarily lose control of your behavior. Some people become extremely emotional or confrontational, and others seem to kind of just shut down. At this point, you're just impulsively reacting, not intentionally responding. Do you see the difference? In this state, it's almost impossible to think clearly. The intensity of all these prepackaged, learned assumptions blinds your ability to see or elevate the true intentions or motives of people across from you. Which means that you are now primed for conflict. You are now ready to go into battle with someone because of a button that they pushed, that they triggered, and all of these emotions have come up and you don't know how to handle it. You don't know what works best, except that these emotions that you're feeling now want to burst out. A conversation that began with a simple question like, where do you think we could trim the budget? Leads you to feel like, what? You don't trust me? Where have I led you wrong before? Why do you treat me like I'm irresponsible? Like, how come I'm the only one that has to listen to this? Why am I the only one that gets in trouble? Why are you looking at me that way? Like why? Like, did you not do something about it? Did you not play a part? Do you see where I'm going? And the other person who meant nothing negative by it sits there stunned by your reaction. Ever walked away and thought, what just happened back there? Like, really, like, why did I do that? Why did I react that way? You're in the bathroom crying. You're in your room, like, hyperventilating, and you're trying to figure out, why did I do what I just did? You did that because a button got pushed. Maybe even more than one. These reactions are an attempt to make unpleasant feelings go away, to disappear. We all develop our own automated strategies, and there's a good chance that what you do to try and feel safe happens to push the buttons of someone in your circle that you're close to. And that sets off the same automatic, defensive, emotional reaction in them as having your button pushed did to you. Does that make sense? So now this person has triggered your buttons and you react a certain way, and by you reacting that way, now their buttons are being pushed and they're gonna react that way. And now both of you are just looking at each other, wanting to slap each other. Which usually results in them pushing back, and you pushing back, and you pushing back, and they're pushing back. And now we're hurting people, and we're saying things that can wreck and destroy a relationship. Ever feel like you're having the same fight over and over again. It starts in different ways, but it always ends up in the same place. Someone gets triggered, a button gets pushed, they get defensive and push back. And after about a 4-day standoff, right, there's a part of you that thinks, I don't think that was entirely about the socks on the floor. How did we get here? And here's the thing, you are absolutely right. It's not about the socks on the floor. It's about past trauma and relational fears and unspoken insecurity and button pushing and lack of self-awareness to know that what's happening or how to stop it. And part of the reason it keeps going is that when our buttons get pushed, we typically try to solve the fight, not by fessing up to our own buttons, but by attacking the other person's reactions. So how do we stop that? Someone has to break the cycle by acknowledging and owning their buttons and taking accountability for their reactions. Someone has to break the cycle by acknowledging and owning their buttons and taking accountability for their actions. And it only takes one person. One person. Notice I didn't say how to, notice I asked you how to stop it, not how to avoid it altogether, because it cannot be done, right? Conflict is inevitable. How you handle conflict will determine how it affects your relationships. And if you handle conflicts poorly, then your relationships will be poor. Research shows that couples that last aren't the ones who love each other the most or have the strongest faith, but the ones with the best conflict management skills. And the same is true about families that are the closest over the long haul. This is not just about a spouse on spouse. This is about you and your children. This is about you and your in-laws. This is about siblings. This is about the people that we love and care about. This is about Family Month. This is what we do. How do we do and be better in our relationships? In other words, you cannot solve conflict by forcing everyone else to think and act just like you. Church, repairing a relationship requires taking responsibility for your feelings and actions, not blaming or changing theirs. It's either ouch or amen, right? Repairing a relationship requires taking responsibility, owning up for your feelings and your actions, and not pointing the finger and blaming someone else. In fact, as we grow in relationship with Jesus, we ought to be able to kind of do or operate or act with love and respect even when issues push our buttons and trigger our fears. Right? Let's be honest, that's why we're in church. I know you come for the coffee and the donuts, but really, we should be wanting to be more like Jesus. We should be wanting to live a life that brings him honor and glory. You don't got to be perfect here, right? We're the perfect place for imperfect people. It's not about being perfect. It's about finding someone that we can follow as a role model and look up to and try to live our life in that manner. You see, the more emotionally mature you are, the more likely you are to choose to be more like Jesus, to be better at managing conflict. But the more emotionally immature you are, the higher the likelihood that you must be made to do it. James, the brother of Jesus, said it this way in James 4:6. And he gives grace generously, as the scriptures say, God opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble. In other words, humility is not an option. The only question is, will you choose it or will it be forced upon you when you hit rock bottom relationally and damage those closest to you? Church, we need to be more humble. We need to be more humble in our relationships. In Jacob's situation, it's a little bit of both. He's choosing to go back to face his brother, but only technically because in the place that he came from, someone pushed one of his buttons and he overreacted. And now they're after him too. You see, truth is, you cannot outrun your own dysfunction. It needs to be addressed. We like to believe that we can. We also like to pretend that no one notices how our undealt issues are impacting our current relationships. And I want to be the first to tell you, just in case no one has ever told you, your undealt issues are impacting your relationships. And sometimes the people that we are fighting with are more of the casualty, right? They're getting the brunt of it than the reason why. I'm sure it was like that for Jacob and his family. And like most of us, Jacob probably didn't realize what kept setting off the conflict cycles in his home. He couldn't figure out why was all of this stuff happening to him. You see, so many times the person that we're fighting with is just a stand-in for the person we ought to be fighting with. But we don't. Or maybe we can't. Maybe we don't have the courage. Maybe we don't know how to bring it up. Maybe we don't think it'll be productive. Maybe the thing that happened 25 years ago and feels weird, it feels weird to bring it up now. Maybe they're not in our life anymore. Maybe they're dead. Sometimes it feels like there are issues and rifts that you cannot repair. You cannot repair it with them. You cannot repair it within yourself. It's like that there's a tear inside of you that doesn't seem to heal. And at any time anyone comes close to touching it, near it, comes rushing back. So Jacob is finally going to go home and face his brother. And on his way, he hears that his brother is looking for him. And he's overwhelmed with emotion. Yes, he's afraid. He's afraid and he's also ashamed. The thing that happened between them haunts him. He thinks about it every day of his life. The thing he did that cannot be undone, that completely changed the course of his life, that ripped his family apart, that sent him out the door and on the run. Church, sometimes what you're going back to face is almost too much to bear, because you're not just facing off with them. You're facing off with your former self. And that's really hard to do. And the worst part of the whole thing is that you cannot control their reaction. In Genesis 33, 3-4, it says, "Then Jacob went on ahead. As he approached his brother, he bowed to the ground 7 times before him. Then Esau ran to meet him and embraced him, threw his arms around his neck and kissed him. And they both wept." This is not what I thought was going to happen. It's not what Jacob thought was going to happen either. And it's not typically what happens. It's rare. That's why it's such an outstanding story. Just because reconciliation is rare, church, doesn't mean that it isn't possible. It is impossible without God. That it is. But here's the unexpected good news, church. You can experience deep relational healing even if the other person refuses to participate. Even if the other person doesn't reciprocate what you're trying to do, it's still possible to receive relational healing. And I think that's what the New Testament author means when he says in Hebrews 12:14-15, work at living in peace with everyone and work at living a holy life. For those who are not holy will not see the Lord. Look after each other so that none of you fails to receive the grace of God. Watch out that no poisonous root of bitterness grows up to trouble you, corrupting many. In other words, you cannot control what they do or do not do. You cannot control what they take accountability for or not, or what inner work they're willing to do. But you can make every effort to deal with your own heart, yourself, right? Your own trauma, your own anger, your own insecurities, your own overreactions. And I think the person on the top of the list of people you need to be at peace with is you, yourself. So let me close this up. I would imagine that if you're being honest today, here at this moment, whether you're in this room or watching online, I would imagine that if you're honest, there's something in your life that you need to face, that you need to deal with, something that you need to invite God to help you acknowledge and address. One of the things I love about being part of the church, about being a part of a church like South Hills, is that we don't have to pretend here. We don't have to pretend like our life is all put together. You don't got to walk around like you are the holiest of holies here. Because at South Hills, you're going to be welcome no matter where you come from, no matter where you've been. At South Hills, you're going to be loved on despite your setbacks. At South Hills, we're going to embrace you and do life with you. So you don't need to pretend like everything is good when you come to South Hills. Because the truth of the matter is that there are people sitting right next to you that are probably going through some difficult times just like you. So maybe there's something that you need to invite God to help you acknowledge and bring about. Maybe it's an apology. Maybe it's how badly someone hurt you. Maybe it's an understanding. It's understanding your core fears. Maybe it's drawing a few appropriate boundaries in your life. Maybe it's you need help in making more of an effort and getting a grip of your life. And if you're a follower of Jesus, you don't have an option. The New Testament sets this expectations. It says in Ephesians 4:31-32, let go of the bitterness Let go of the hurt. Let go of the pain. Let go of the wrongdoings that have been put upon you. So here's the question. What is preventing you from being kind, tender-hearted, and forgiving towards someone else? What's the hiccup in your life that is preventing you from loving and caring for someone else? I want you to take the steps to rid yourself of that, because that is the key to peace. That is what's holding you back from experiencing the peace that surpasses all understanding. The peace that God came to give us, or the God that promises us. And the peace that comes for living life to the fullest that Jesus came to give us. And here's the thing. The other person doesn't even have to participate in order for you to receive that peace. I'm convinced that when Jacob and Esau meet again, this potentially disastrous moment instead resulted in what you would have to call a miracle, because they both gone with God. They both had their time with God to do their inner work, to work on themselves before they met up with one another. In other words, this encounter that they had where they embraced happened because each one of them started the work of fixing themselves first and allowing God, inviting God to be in the middle of that. You see, they had already made peace with God and themselves and decided no matter what he does, I'm going to reflect my God, come what may, because God has given me my peace. Jacob was determined to ask for forgiveness and make amends, even if that meant that his brother would take revenge on him. Oof. That's powerful right there. And Esau had already decided to forgive his brother and treat him with kindness moving forward, even if he never said, sorry. Sorry, bro, I messed up. Sorry, I did that. Man, that is spiritual maturity right there. That is something that we should all be going after. Can you imagine if our families began to function this way? The people that we love and care about, that when we're wrong, we admit it and we're willing to make amends no matter how much it costs. And when we're wronged, we will seek you out to let you know that you're forgiven, even if you never apologize. Friends, here's a baby step to get you started. Whomever that person is that you're at odds with, because I know you are at odds with someone in your life right now. Whomever that person is, right? Person you're at odds with, or you're stuck in a reaction cycle with, or maybe even estranged from, right? Reach out to that person. Go find that person. Tell that person, I want a better relationship with you. What small thing can I do to demonstrate that I care about you? That person can be like, what you talking about, Willis? What do you mean? And then, this is the key. Actually do it. Do that one thing that demonstrates love. And do it with kindness and tenderheartedness. Church, I wonder what kind of peace awaits you and your family because you are taking that step for yourself. For yourself. In order to be and do better in your relationships. Whether that be with your family members, whether that be with your neighbors, your co-workers. Can you imagine the relationships that will be restored? Can you imagine doing that before Thanksgiving and the extra mouths to feed? The smiles and the hugs that can take place this Thanksgiving. Because you chose to find peace for yourself. Amen? Lord Heavenly Father, would you begin to stir up our hearts this morning as we take heed to your word. You begin to teach us and show us and bring to the very surface those hurts and those pains, those struggles that we have had that have put distance between us and the people that we love and care about. Would you help us to kind of deal with that first, Lord? Those past traumas, those past hurts. Would you help us recognize those things, my God, and begin to work at that, Lord Heavenly Father, so that we can find peace for ourselves, Lord Heavenly Father. And then position that, in finding that peace, it would then position us to love more, to love better. Lord, I know that there are relationships that have been estranged, relationships that have been hurting with the people that we love and care about. Would we not find peace until we begin to deal with it ourselves first? And then step out and begin to love people the way that you have loved us. May we live a life that brings you glory and honor in everything that we say, think, or do. And everyone said,
Hills Church, I just want to take a moment and say thank you for watching our service online. Whether you're watching it for the first time or you're watching it again because you enjoyed the service so much from the weekend, I'd like to take a moment and dive into our giving. Every week we give people the opportunity to give back and give to the local church so that God can continue to bless your lives and bless your finances. Here at South Hills, we believe that everything comes from God. We believe that He's the one that chose us and brought us into this world, gave us our gifts and talents and abilities. And I just want you to know that when we give, we are giving back what God has already given to us. If you've ever seen any of our envelopes at a South Hills campus, you'll see on there that it says, every week at South Hills, your generosity is giving people the opportunity to live a better story. And there's a scripture on there in Matthew chapter 6, verse 21 that says, where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. So I want to encourage you today to click down below and set up your giving, whether it's for the first time or whether you're doing reoccurring giving. We have 4 ways to give here at South Hills. 1, you can do it in person at any of our campuses through an envelope. Or 2, you can actually text any amount that you would like to 84321. And the 3rd way is to download our Church Center app. I encourage you to do this one because the Church Center app gives you opportunity to stay connected with our church and your campuses. It's a great tool and resource for you to know what's going on. And the 4th way to give is to give online. You can go to southhills.org/give and you can set up your giving there. Whether you're a guest of our church or whether you are a member of our church, or whether you simply just like to watch our services, I encourage you to trust God with your finances so that He can bless and anoint your finances and you can be trusting God in this journey of living life to the fullest. I love you and thank you for watching our online service today.